Welcome to Pioneer Plaza, one of the most visited sites in downtown Dallas, Texas. In 1995, the Texas Trees Foundation dedicated Pioneer Plaza to the city of Dallas. This wonderful park commemorates the trails that brought settlers to Dallas and the historical significance of the cattle drives in Texas. The plaza has a natural stream, native trees and plants, and is a beautiful setting for a downtown park. The land was once railroad and warehouse property. Built on land cleared as part of the failed Griffin Square development, developer Trammell Crow gets credit for the idea behind the sculptures in Plaza. He wanted an iconic Western sculpture in the city of Dallas. He assembled a group to give the sculptures. Begun in 1992, the $9 million project started on 4.2 acres of land donated by the city of Dallas. $4.8 million of the cost came from private funds raised from individuals and local businesses. The large sculpture commemorates 19th-century cattle drives that took place along the Shawnee Trail, the earliest and easternmost route by which Texas Longhorn cattle were taken to northern railheads. The trail passed through Austin, Waco, and Dallas until the Chisholm Trail siphoned off most of the traffic in 1867. The 49 bronze steers and 3 trail riders sculptures were created by artist Robert Summers of Glen Rose, Texas. Each steer is larger than life at 6 feet high. Altogether, the sculpture is the largest bronze monument of its kind in the world. Every one of the bulls has its own individual look, from facial expression down to the hooves. They do all have one thing in common, however, a branded D on their sides for Dallas. Think twice about hopping on the back of one of these wild longhorns. Again, they're pretty tall, and they also have a bronze rod running through the ridge of their spine. Pioneer Plaza's sculptures speak to the Texas spirit. They're larger than life. According to Dallas officials, they make up the biggest bronze monument in the world. These Texas Longhorns clock in at 6 feet tall, and they're impressive to see in person. The group of sculptures also includes 3 cowboys on horseback, pushing the herd forward. The current Pioneer Park Cemetery is all that remains of the Masonic, Oddfellows Jewish and Old City cemeteries that trace their roots back to the 1850s, which is only a decade after John Neely Bryan established what would later become the city of Dallas in 1841. While those interred in the Jewish section were relocated by the Hebrew Benevolent Association in 1956, the same year the Dallas Memorial Auditorium was built, the most of the other three cemeteries remain intact. Despite the fact that the cemetery contains the remains of 3 veterans of the War of 1812, 9 members of the Texas Revolution, 6 mayors of Dallas, and numerous Civil War veterans, it fell into a state of disrepair and neglect by the late 1800s. Headstones were vandalized, and the only thing that checked the growth of weeds was the livestock that wandered the grounds. In 1907, the Santa Fe Railroad, while excavating along the cemetery's western edge, unearthed numerous remains and, according to the Dallas Morning News, hauled away dirt strewn with bones by the wagon load. There was a movement to disinter all the remains in order to make way for a warehouse in 1922, but local outrage prevented those plans from moving forward. Some of the more notable people buried at the Pioneer Park Cemetery include Juliet Abbey Peak Fowler, 1837 to 1889, was a pioneering Dallas philanthropist. After losing her husband and infant children in the 1860s, she dedicated her life to helping others. Upon her death, she left her estate and land to establish a home for widows and orphans, cementing her legacy as Dallas' first major philanthropist. John McClanahan Crockett, 1816 to 1887, served as Lieutenant Governor of Texas during its first 2 years in the Confederacy, then as the second mayor of Dallas, as a Texas state representative, and as lieutenant governor. He also opened one of the first law offices in the pioneer settlement. Kentucky native James Martin Patterson, 1812 to 1906, arrived in Dallas in 1846. Patterson and John Smith opened one of the first stores in Dallas using their pooled resources of $700. They built a flatboat and attempted to ship cotton down the Trinity River to the Gulf Coast in 1851. Patterson served as Chief Justice, County Judge, from 1854 to 66. He retired in 1875 and managed his extensive property holdings until his death. In 1961, the 60-foot Confederate memorial, that had been located in City Park, was moved to Pioneer Park Cemetery. The Confederate War Memorial was a 65-foot, 20 m, high monument that pays tribute to soldiers and sailors from Texas who served with the Confederate States of America during the American Civil War. Following the 2017 Charlottesville protests, a massive nationwide movement dismantled and relocated hundreds of Confederate monuments. Statues of 2 Confederate generals, Robert E. Lee and Albert Sidney Johnston, and the Confederate cabinet member John Reagan, were removed on August 21. They followed the removal of a statue of Jefferson Davis in 2015. The mayor of Baltimore, Catherine Pugh, ordered the removal of 4 monuments to the era of the Confederacy, saying it was in the interest of public safety after the violence in Charlottesville. The statues were taken down before dawn on August 16. A plaque honoring a tree planted in Brooklyn in the 1840s by Robert E. Lee was removed on August 16. The tree is next to a closed Episcopal church, and diocesan officials said they received multiple threats after the plaque was taken down. Another plaque was also removed. Protesters pulled down a statue of a Confederate soldier in front of the Durham County Courthouse in Durham, North Carolina, on August 14. The statue, which had stood since 1924, was protected by a special law. On August 19, Duke University removed a Robert E. Lee statue from Duke Chapel. A local chapter of the United Daughters of the Confederacy paid for the August 14 removal of a monument to Confederate soldiers that stood in front of Alachua County Administration Building in downtown Gainesville for 113 years. The monument, known locally as Old Joe, was moved to a private cemetery outside the city, according to the Gainesville Sun. A Confederate monument on George Island in Boston Harbor has been covered up as the state decides what to do about it. Governor Charlie Baker, a Republican, said in June that we should refrain from the display of symbols, especially in our public parks, that do not support liberty and equality. After the wave of removal of Confederate monuments in 2017, the city of Dallas convened a task force to decide what to do with the memorial. In February 2019, the Dallas City Council approved removal of the Confederate War Memorial, but the planned removal was later blocked by the Fifth Court of Appeals of Texas. In June 2020, amid widespread George Floyd protests and destruction and removal of other Confederate monuments, the court granted an order allowing the city to remove the monument and place it in storage. The Confederate War Memorial in downtown Dallas Pioneer Park was fully removed in June 2020 following a city council vote and legal battles. The 65-foot obelisk and its surrounding statues were placed into archival storage, leaving behind a completely empty, grassy area where the monument once stood. Pioneer Plaza represents more than just a visual attraction, it also serves as a popular gathering spot for both locals and tourists. The park often hosts community events and festivals, contributing to its role as a vibrant part of Dallas's cultural landscape. Its location makes it easily accessible from the central business district and various parts of the city, drawing visitors from near and far.